tripled in value. James Comer, who's investigating the Biden family's corruption, said bank records indicate the Bidens took in $17 million in dirty overseas cash. But it looks like more bank records have come in. And we could be looking at a $50 million racket.
Based on the evidence I've seen so far, I think the number is going to be north of $50 million that we're talking about here. This will go down as one of the most politically corrupt presidents and families in U.S. history.
Hello?
$50 million. Joe Biden bragged for decades that he was the poorest man in the Senate. How does someone without a business have $50 million? How does someone whose son doesn't have a real job have $50 million? How does someone who has two brothers who can't hold a job have $50 million? The only legit business we could find in the Biden family is Ashley Biden's sweatshirt company. And I don't think she's made $50 million selling hoodies.
Huh?
This is exactly why we need an impeachment inquiry, because it's challenging unwinding 20 shell companies over 10 years involving 10 Bidens and $50 million. At least $50 million. Remember, we're only beginning to receive these subpoenaed bank records. And Primetime's learning now that there are foreign bank records related to the Biden family, offshore accounts. The Democrats accidentally produced the bombshell for us. Watch.
It was a significant amount of documents. I apologize.
Hundreds of thousands? Millions?
I don't want to put a number to it, but there was a lot.
Right. Bank records, right? You had a lot of bank records?
Yes,
Both domestic and foreign?
that is correct.
Foreign. That's big. If you keep money in offshore accounts, it means you have a legit overseas business, which the Bidens don't, or you're hiding money and dodging taxes. Remember, Biden family bank transactions created 170 suspicious activity reports. These are bank reports that generate themselves in-house to flag potential criminal activity. These offshore accounts could hold the key to this entire investigation.
With Joe, I suspect there are offshore accounts. The IRS whistleblowers confirmed when I asked if they had documents pertaining to foreign accounts, and they said they did.
Wow.
But they couldn't turn them over to us. They have to go through that process and turn it over to the Ways and Means Committee, and I requested they do that, and they said they would.
So sources tell Primetime that these foreign bank records will be given to the House and Ways and Means Committee, which will vote to release them in September.
Hello.
The sleazy sweetheart plea deal that imploded Wednesday was just an attempt to stovepipe it. Stovepipe these offshore accounts from investigators. These IRS whistleblowers were blocked from pursuing the offshore accounts and blocked from investigating Biden family member bank accounts. We suspect these accounts lead to Joe Biden himself, because Hunter Biden does not have $50 million sitting around. He blew through his China and Ukraine cash in like 2 years. So someone's holding something for you-know-who, somewhere.
Howdy.
If we're talking 50 mil. Of course this leads to Joe. Why would Hunter have access to Joe Biden's bank accounts? Well, here's a story that explains that. That doesn't make any sense. Back in 2018, Hunter Biden was binging on crack cocaine at the Chateau Marmont Hotel in L.A. He was using escort services. But Hunter was so high, he accidentally overpaid a Russian pimp $25,000 from his father's account. Joe Biden in 2018 wasn't vice president anymore, but electronic transfers like that from the vice president to a certified pimp set off all kinds of alarm bells in Washington. So the Secret Service frantically got involved and rushed into Hunter Biden's hotel. First, they texted Hunter saying, quote, "Come on, H, this is linked to Celtic's account. DC is calling me every 10. Let me up or come down. I can't help you if you don't let me, H." Now, Joe Biden's Secret Service code name was Celtic, by the way, and Hunter's code name was Chieftain.
I think I'll pass.
Okay, all right.
When Hunter wouldn't get out of the room, the Secret Service stormed in. Hunter spent the next 2 weeks trying to claw back $20,000 of his father's cash from a Russian pimp. Now, this wasn't Macy's, so I don't know what the pimp's return policy was. This might be the first time a pimp's given a John back some of his money. But here's the point. Why would Hunter Biden have easy online access to his father's bank account? Are you able to log on to your dad's bank account and wire money to people? I'm not. I never have been. But the Bidens were a different kind of family. The money came in and everybody in the family split it. Quote, one big pot of money for the entire Biden clan, unquote. Remember, Hunter's not 13. He's a grown man going into his daddy's account. He put the money in, he took the money out. Joe Biden used Hunter's money to pay for phone bills, house repairs, monthly expenses. Joe Biden touched this bribe money for years. That's a fact. Even Hunter's business partners had access to Joe Biden's bank account. Joe was getting help with his mortgage payments, his taxes. Where'd the money come from? The Democrats can't deny it anymore. Hunter admitted in court under oath that he was getting paid from China, Ukraine, and Romania. And Hunter's on the record saying Pop made me give him half my salary and pay for everything in the family for 30 years. Hunter's dirty foreign cash is Joe's dirty foreign cash. The family was living off bribe money and hiding it. There's no way that Joe can claim he had no idea what his son was up to. Here's another example.
Joe Biden not only knew about and spoke with Hunter about his overseas business dealings, but may have actually been involved. Just the day before the election last year, we published a story from an anonymous whistleblower who said that he was on a conference call with Joe Biden, where Joe was acting like the chairman of the board of this company that was dealing with online gambling in Latin America. Joe Biden was asking about profits, revenues, and this was whilst he was vice president.
So if Joe was involved right before the election, yay! Can we rule out that he's not involved now? Hunter's been following Joe around for a reason. State dinners, Air Force One, Camp David. And something's in that big red backpack that he's always carrying around. That's the business model. They call it the Delaware way. If you do one Biden a favor, you do all Bidens a favor. And I have a hunch Joe knows where the money is.
The bribery allegation, Congresswoman Nancy Mace says there's damning evidence in the FBI file that you sold out the country. Do you have a response to the congressional Republicans?
Where's the money?
AOC was supposed to question Minnie also. She's sad. She spent all day doing her homework, boning up on crypto, and then the test got canceled.
Sometimes serving in Congress means that you spend an enormous amount of time and energy preparing a major line of questioning for, let's say, for example, a crypto billionaire that may or may not have misused a very large degree of funds. And you're working, and you're having
the whistles go woo!
breakthroughs in the case, and you're developing a really strong line of questioning. And then the night before your hearing, your witness gets arrested.
This guy was a fraud from day one. And AOC, who's supposed to be street smart, worked as a bartender, knows the ropes. She didn't catch on into Minnie until the money went missing. Washington has everything except street smarts. Look what they did to the border. They said walls don't work. Stop building the wall. And the entire continent came over.
I like turtles.
Plus, fentanyl's fire hosing into the country so fast it could kill the population 9 times over. Biden's just busy trying to appease the fringe of his party instead of actually doing anything about it. Same thing with Sticky Finger Sammy. You remember the bag burglar? The guy's a walking red flag. You Google his name and porn comes up. But the Biden administration Googled his name and said, "You're hired." The guy steals women's luggage like it's his job. And now he's fired. But the White House said they never heard of Sammy. Really? Well, that's funny because Sammy's best friends with Mayor Pete's husband.
It's this idea of inspiration porn, that your mere existence is enough. When, Sam, you are out there doing critical work in the community.
One of my favorite stories is I walked into Disney World in my stilettos. I have 52 pair of heels. I love stilettos. They're very important to me as a way of expressing myself, right? And I walked into Disney with them, and I would later get a message from a mom being like,
"You see where I'm coming from?
oh my gosh, my child saw you in heels. It was so wonderful.
The only thing I'm going to red flag is, you walked to Disney World in heels?
I did.
I can't do Disney World in tennis shoes.
I can't. Mini Madoff, the border, Sticky Sammy, all embarrassments for Biden. Biden vetted the Afghan refugees clinging to the planes in Kabul better than Sticky Sammy. But you have different pronouns, you're hired. Take women's sports. Biden has daughters. Hey, Hunter has daughters.
Wow.
Kamala has a daughter. Do they want their daughters playing sports against dudes? No. They want your daughters playing sports against dudes. Here's what happened when a trans man played volleyball against a girls' volleyball team. Okay, that's what you call the spike of death. We all knew Democrats were dumb, but now this is getting dangerous. There's a reason we have different teams, locker rooms, and prisons for men and women. This is all common sense.
Electric chair.
In Massachusetts, a persnickety librarian banned a Christmas tree because there was one atheist in a town of 100,000 Christians. Doesn't make any sense. And once Primetime called them out, they buckled, said they never banned the tree. They were just under a decoration review. Totally bogus. They got caught cold, and now the tree is back up, and that's what matters. But Democrats like to experiment, and we're the guinea pigs. Look at the defund movement. After Floyd got killed, Democrats decided all police are bad. We don't need them anymore. They have their own private security, so they didn't care about rolling the dice with our safety. Burlington, Vermont, slashed their budget and kicked out dozens of officers. They tried refunding police, but cops didn't want to work there. They didn't trust the politicians. And this year, Burlington, Vermont hit their highest number of murders since the 60s. It's obvious defunding police doesn't make anybody safer, but they have no common sense. People with common sense don't shut down domestic energy production, while Russia puts troops on the Ukrainian border. Look at Twitter, blowing up in the Democrats' face, too. They never counted on a guy like Musk buying Twitter and then airing out the dirt. We always had an idea how Democrats used Twitter against us, but now we know Twitter wasn't a private company. It was a Democrat donor. It wasn't a private company. It was an FBI subcontractor teaming with feds, thirsty to stifle us. And this is totally blown up, but the media, they don't want to talk about it. Just like Biden doesn't want to talk about the border because we're dealing with children. Except these children have power. It's like if you put your 10-year-old in charge of the family for a day, for 4 years. It's a crisis every hour. Same thing with the Democrats. Ponzi scheme to border crisis to crime wave. We get stuck with the bill, the toe tags, the bad reps. We get canceled for calling it out. This might be the dumbest time to be.
We begin with those congressional Biden family business investigations and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy possibly scheduling a vote soon on an impeachment inquiry. Maria asked Senator Ted Cruz if he's spoken with Minority Leader Mitch McConnell about the lack of interest from Senate Democrats to investigate President Biden.
I have no idea what Mitch knows or doesn't know. I will tell you there are very few people in the Senate that are following closely the details of what's happening here. Part of the reason is Senate Democrats want to have nothing to do with it, so we won't have a single hearing for the next 2 years in the Senate Judiciary Committee on any of this because the Democrats do not care.
Meantime, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says he'll blame House Republicans for any government shutdown if they fail to pass spending legislation by the end of the month. Joining me now with a reaction is Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn, who is a member of both the Senate Finance and Senate Judiciary Committees. Senator, thank you for joining us this morning.
Sure.
Also, you served in the House before you served in the Senate.
That's right.
The Democrats, they want to put all the blame going into an election year on the Republicans. The Democrats have also asked for $12 billion as a bump up for FEMA funding, but $24 billion for Ukraine. There are a lot of people that want to see this question split. What's your take on where we're at and what is going to happen with the funding?
Yes, good morning, Jason. What we are hearing is the one person who is really pushing for a government shutdown is Chuck Schumer. And this is something he thinks would help him politically as he tries to hang on to the U.S. Senate, which, of course, we know is going to be very difficult for him to do and probably impossible. But what we do know is this: Senate Republicans, House Republicans are pushing forward to get these spending bills across the finish line, because this is how we take the power away from the White House.
What am I looking at right now?
And this is what we can do to get inflation under control. And as you know, what we hear every day from people is inflation is crippling them. When you look at the increase in the price of groceries, when you look at what is happening with gas and what they're facing at the pump, people are saying, what can you do to bring down inflation? One thing we can do is to make certain that we take that power from the White House and we get these bills across the finish line.
Maybe.
Now, part of the concern that Speaker McCarthy has expressed is that if you don't pass any sort of spending bills, then the investigation into the Bidens and the family corruption allegations, that goes away. What kind of weight is that going to play in the Senate, and how do they negotiate and get their way through this in the House of Representatives? Because there's a lot of people believe that Speaker McCarthy is in a no-win situation in being able to get a stopgap funding bill passed in the House.
What we do know is that the Democrats would like to have that government shutdown because it would halt these investigations that the House is working on. And Chairman Comer, Chairman Smith, Chairman Jordan are continuing to push forward to get this information and to find out exactly what the relationship is between Joe Biden and Biden Incorporated. And archives, you were just talking about archives, not wanting to turn over all of these emails with the pseudonyms that Joe Biden was using as he was vice president. And they want to get those so that they have a record, so they have that paper trail of what the involvement was. And of course, we know that they're continuing to get bank records. And the American people, certainly Tennesseans, Jason, every time I talk with them, they want to know what happened, who was involved, and for people that did things wrong, they want them to be punished.
Well, there are literally thousands of emails and pseudonyms and all kinds of things happening there. Senator, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you also a key question about leadership in the House or in the Senate and in the House. You have people that are having medical issues and seriously cognitive issues in their ability to do their job. Not just Joe Biden, which is well documented, but you have Steve Scalise, for instance, the majority leader in the House, who's fighting, unfortunately,
spicy meat. Yeah, boy.
Blood cancer diagnosis, and we wish him nothing but the best. Senator Feinstein, Senator Fetterman are also dealing with hard, difficult issues, as well as the Senate Minority Leader, Mitch McConnell, who's had 2 medical episodes. Can these people continue to be in leadership positions, let alone serve in their capacities in the House and the Senate?
Jason, I think the one that deserves our attention at the top of the list is President Biden, who is to be the leader of the free world. And one of the things that Americans should always want is for our enemies to fear us and for our friends to know that they are our friend and we're going to stick with them. And when you see Joe Biden struggle with words, with days, with times, with places, then it drives home the point of how important it is to have someone who is capable in leadership. And quite honestly, I don't think anyone wants to have a President Kamala Harris.
But, Senator, I do need to ask you about Mitch McConnell. Twice he's been at the microphone and had a dramatic pause There's some belief that he had, an accident, a slip, a fall, perhaps a concussion. Can he continue to lead the Senate Republicans